Hey, welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews. I'm Scott. There's Dave right over there. And we have finally moved into the only trilogy it matters in anything. Don't want to hear about The Lord of the Rings or any of that. This is it, the one and only. Episodes 4, 5, and 6. And we fired it off last night watching episode 4, A New Hope. This is going to be an interesting discussion. David and I, as his shirt says, I was there. So was I.
May 25th, 1977.
I was 6 years old at that time.
Really?
So, yeah.
Oh.
Nice.
I was 11?
Yeah, wow.
I was 11.
Yeah.
I remember real quick before you go in, I think I told you the story. I have a cousin, and his name was Bill Gonowichi. He was married into the family. Mm-hmm. And it is one of my absolute greatest childhood memories. Honest to God.
Well, please
I don't remember a whole lot of stuff from my childhood, and a lot of it's just blocked out.
Understood.
For good reasons. But
that's a different podcast.
Yeah, that's a different podcast. But there's this one memory that I remember of Bill Gonowichi taking me and my sister Teresa to go see this. And I remember things that were in this movie, so I wonder sometimes whether he took us to a preview showing, like, you know how they have the audience previews, because I remember as the scroll was going up, somebody was reading that. I remember hearing it over the audio, and I also remember some of the scenes from Tatooine with Biggs Darklighter and him in the area. And people have said since then, like, no, it was never released. It was never released like that. Well, it may not have ever been released, but
it may have been
I knew about these scenes long before anything was being released about this movie. You know what I mean? Like, before it was in magazines, before it was here, before it was there, because he kept everything really close grip. But yeah, I remember asking my sister, like, do you remember the scrolling and somebody reading it? She's like, yeah, I remember that. She goes,
that's wild.
That's weird. I haven't thought about that for years. She goes, but yeah, there's somebody reading it, and I remember a desert scene. And some other like little things, and people tell me I'm crazy. They're like, no. And then every once in a while, I'll talk to somebody else that says, yeah, I remember that. So they must have gone to previews also.
It's quite possible.
But some people tell me I'm crazy, and they say it was never released that way. But that's my memory. Whether it's true or not, that's my memory, and I'm sticking with it.
I don't remember much other than the amount of toys I remember seeing in the stores and my friend's house with all the little figures. And even at that young age, in the early 70s or mid 70s, I'm looking at these toys wondering, oh my God, that droid was only in there for a split second, but Lucasfilms made a toy for every fucking character, and it was brilliant.
Seemed like it.
It was absolutely brilliant. So
well, initially that first Christmas run, they didn't have anything. You had to pre-order the stand, and they came with like little cardboard cutouts, I think.
Oh shit!
I never had any of the figures as a kid at first. Those came much later when I started going to the old toy stores and seeing stuff that people threw out, and I was like, oh my God, it's a Luke Skywalker! Oh my God, it's a Han Solo! Princess Leia, great. But I remember them not having anything, and they had to, they just doubled down because nobody knew what this movie was going to do. Nobody was planning on doing anything with it. They figured maybe he'd make his money back and go. So yeah, it's crazy. But when those toys hit, like you said, all the main characters, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewbacca, and then all of a sudden, everybody's like, okay, what about everybody else? Oh shit! We need Darth Vader. We need droids. We need stormtroopers, and they just started just like you said. Everybody. That was fantastic. Nobody did anything like that. Nobody.
No, nobody did anything like a lot of things in this movie, and that's what this is. This is a groundbreaking movie, in a lot of ways, because I think one of the things I noticed last night, and this was before I read the article that you sent me on Lucas's wife, Marsha.
Yeah, right.
And how she edited and was basically the best idea person, and he really needed her. And I've read about that before.
Yeah, so have I. That explains everything wrong with the first 3 movies that you and I were talking about. And I'm like, maybe I'm being too picky. But I had sent Scott an article, and I think I still have the address here, so maybe we can connect that whenever we go to post this. And it was The Secret Weapon, Who Made Star Wars Great? And it's on news.com.au.
Yeah.
And it's about George Lucas's wife.
Yeah.
Marsha Lucas, I think.
And before I read that, one of the things that I was going to come into this podcast today with was how great the editing was in this movie. I think the editing, the cuts, everything is just so well done. The musical score at the right times.
Yep.
Now, for our listeners out there, I watched the special edition and Dave watched the original, which I am jealous of.
Couldn't watch the special edition again.
But it's good because I want to talk about some of those differences before we really start digging into the meat of this movie. You're hit right away with just how cleaned up everything is. And it looks fine. But there's CGI now where I know there was no CGI. There's creatures that were no creatures. And there were scenes at the beginning when they make it to Mos Eisley that it's goofy as fuck scenes. Little stupid shit going on in the background, going for a laugh. Yeah, and it's like, am I watching The Phantom Menace again? And so, what the fuck are you doing, George? None of that was necessary. And in fact, it's very jarring because now, as we talk about, CGI doesn't hold, and it's not great CGI.
That CGI definitely does not hold up. I don't think.
And it does not hold up for Jabba at all. He looks so fucking weird. They should have just left it out.
The scene when Han Solo meets Jabba at the parking lot. Yeah, I guess
parking garage.
And it said his garage.
His garage.
It doesn't really work. Initially it had a guy in a costume, and this guy wore like a big fur.
Yeah, that's what I remember seeing.
He was just this big heavy guy
or special
and
stuff.
From what I had read in books and stories, was he was supposed to be a Jabba like stand-in. What?
Decoy?
Yeah, like a Jabba decoy, because nobody was supposed to have known what Jabba the Hutt looked like. Evidently, they didn't come up with the Hutts being a species yet. It was just Jabba the Hutt, and nobody knew what he looked like. So this guy could stand in. If I remember correctly, the reveal was supposed to be in Jedi when you finally see the real Jabba the Hutt. Yeah. So they could have just as easily left this guy in. Because guys like you and I would have probably known, oh, that's not Jabba the Hutt. He's a stand-in, you know. And this is the guy that he's been dealing with for 10 or 15 years since the movie Solo. So he has no idea who Jabba the Hutt really is. He's never even met the guy.
Yeah.
It's always been this intermediary guy. Could have probably left that alone, you know, because the real fans would have got it, and new fans would have not known who Jabba the Hutt was anyway. So, but that's just
and that being said, what I really want to get across is I enjoyed watching this movie, regardless of me watching the special edition. Yeah. I really love this fucking story. I love how it all comes together. The acting, the chemistry, the sound, everything fired on 100%. Yep. George Lucas struck gold when he did this, and I sat there with my jaw on the floor, still watching. It's like, how did they pull some of this off? It's really freaking cool. I do have to make a joke about the Death Star and OSHA. No railings around anything. It's like
they didn't have a railing.
It was the same way on Rogue One. There we go. Now that's what's cool. This movie takes place seconds after Rogue One. Yeah, and it's beautifully done like that, and I really loved seeing that. Going into this movie after watching the 5 movies before that lead up was a great idea, because I approach this movie differently now. It's like I've got all this story. The problem being is George hadn't apparently written all of this other shit before, and there's some holes. There's some things that miss. Anakin should have recognized the 2 droids he fucking built. I'm just going to put it out there. Why didn't he? Why didn't Obi-Wan recognize R2, who had flown with multiple times?
I think he did. I think he knew exactly who R2-D2. I have a note somewhere in there.
I want to hear those. Go ahead and jump, because that was one of my biggest things. Is like, how does Obi-Wan not recognize fucking R2 and C-3PO?
Because he looks over and he says, "Come over here, Frank." He knows who Luke Skywalker is. They already know each other. That becomes obvious that they've met. So in the series, they better have them meet. but he calls, come over here, my little friend, and R2 makes a noise, and he's like, he's fine, he'll be all right, and he's looking at R2D2 almost like, are you R2D2? Are you the R2 droid that I know?
Okay. Okay.
And then whenever Luke says he claims to be the property of Obi-Wan Kenobi, do you know him? And you see Luke, you see him go back on his haunches,
Yes.
Obi-Wan, and it's not just the name that Luke is saying the name Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's looking at R2D2 and he says, "Funny, I don't ever remember owning a droid before, because technically Obi-Wan Kenobi never owned a droid."
No,
So he's
he
not
didn't.
lying.
No,
But
and I
he's
just thought,
looking at R2. If you look at go back and look at the scene where he's just looking at R2 like, what did you tell this kid? What does this kid know? What's going? He doesn't want to give him too much information
right.
yet. That's how I took that scene.
And that
Now
could be. That could be.
whether Sir Alec Guinness knew the backstory, if he just looked at Lucas and was like, "Hey man, I need to know who this guy is. Does he know the droid or not? I need to know how to act this." I don't know.
And he may not have at the time. And it does
he
work
sure-
when you look at it that way, because I did see him pause a little bit, but it
Mhm.
was like the way they have anthropomorphized, I can't even
Right.
say it, the droids in the Star
Anthropomorphic.
Wars universe. Do what?
The anthropomorphic.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the word. Thank you.
Well, I know big words like mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise and anthropomorphic droids, the way they made them that way,
Right.
it would have been just like seeing an old friend. It's like,
Right.
I would have thought it would have been an instant. And that's why when Vader had seen him, it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Mhm.
He built y'all. He knows you. But
Yeah.
we get nothing. Nothing.
Well, in Empire, you get Vader grabbing Boba Fett's gun and pushing it down when he sees him going to shoot across.
Oh, I can't wait to get to
pit.
that. Okay.
So just keep an eye open for that. And initially, everybody's like, "Why the hell did he do that? Why the hell did he do that?" And whenever you see Episode 1, you're like,
Now you know.
"That's why he did that.
Good,
He knows who
good.
C-3PO is."
Right, well,
That's how I took it. With the Obi-Wan, I just assumed that Obi-Wan, like, he's going to tell this kid what's going on as they're going to Alderaan. He's already got, okay, the droids didn't give it all up. You know,
they didn't give
R2
anything
hasn't
up.
said anything, and if he has, the kid can't understand him. So, and the one droid's memory's wiped, so he's not going to know everything that's going on. So I'm good. I can piecemeal this story to him until he knows what he needs to know.
Well, and
That's how I took it.
It became obvious that everybody knew who Luke was except poor Luke.
Right.
And, I want to talk about something that I hear a lot of people say, and I completely disagree. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I hear a lot of people complain about Luke Skywalker as being this whiny kid. Yeah, he's a fucking teenager growing up in the desert. Of course he's going to whine.
Yeah.
What do you expect? A lot happened to him. He's got a backstory that his parents are hiding from him.
Right.
You see the look between Owen and Beru that, are we even going to discuss how horrible they look after only 19 years? I'm just saying.
Right, after
they
20,
aged horribly.
Yeah. See, that's what my problem with his timeline is. Nothing jibes up with the age of the guys that they are in the first movie. He needed to play this timeline a little bit in episodes 1 through 3.
It got it too close. Beru and Owen are a good 20 years older than they should be.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know they're living in the desert, and I know it's a rough life.
It's not that hard.
I mean, even Obi-Wan. You look at Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're like, "Whoa, dude, you're like 80 here. What the hell happened?"
He looked pretty good. I could.
Yeah. I always
he's figured, a little further. I get it. I don't think he would have looked that old, but we've seen Ewan McGregor more than we got to see Alec Guinness.
Right.
Play the character. So I think in my mind and everybody's, when I think Obi-Wan, yes, I still think of Sir Alec Guinness, but it's also so much Ewan McGregor.
I always go back to Alec to McGinnis. Just I think it's because it was the first guy that I saw, and he was in the 3 movies for each little snippet for that. But to go back, you were talking about the cutting and the editing.
Yes.
His wife made this movie, and folks, if you go and do the read on the article, I've always heard how good she was. I had always heard that it was the wife that saved that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And for years, I just assumed, yeah, it was probably the wife because he had so much film and he had these other two editors that just had so much stuff they didn't know what to do with it. She came in and they had so much unusable footage
Wow.
because of the storms and the problems that they had that when she came in, she would take a shot to the very last frame and then she would swipe it to the very first usable frame of the next scene. So that's why you see these swipes and everything seems to last a little bit longer, or they cut it right before you think they should, or you're like, boy, I'd like to see what happened next. Well, they didn't have anything next, or it was unusable. So she would get to the last frame that she could possibly use, do a swipe, do a spin swipe, do something, and that was all her figuring out how to put this film together.
It's well done, and I was watching that last night. It's like, man, this thing is well cut. It's well paced. It doesn't ever really bog down. It's just boom, boom, boom.
And she did Empire and Jedi too in the same way. And I think that article said she's not credited, but I had always heard that she was in on those too.
Yeah, I did see that in there, that she was part of it. She wasn't the main editor, but she had a hand in it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you ain't walking in there with this woman on the movies that she's done, and she's not the main editor. I'm sorry.
Isn't that weird?
They've been trying to
American Graffiti. I forget all the others that she had done.
They've been trying to wipe her off the history of Star Wars for years, and I'm like, Lucas, just get the fuck over it. She made you a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, she did.
Is what it boils down to. Because she came in and saved your movie. Just, you know what? You should be paying her a damn stipend. Just cause. In my opinion. Stop trying to be a poopy head and just let her.
I agree. There's other people that we can get out of Star Wars who are actually trying to ruin it, and that's a discussion for a later podcast.
Yeah. Those three are coming up. But that's another story.
Those are coming.
But yeah, she was a really good editor, Marcia Lucas, and I don't remember what her maiden name was. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in there.
But he owes a lot to her. He owes a lot to her.
Yeah, very well done. I'm not even going to talk about a synopsis of the story because if you don't know, well then I'm sorry. Go watch fucking Star Wars.
It's just a hero's journey. You know,
it's very basic. It's by the numbers, but you know what? That works because that works, and that's
yeah, exactly. And you know, I'm trying to think of the guy's name, and I've just totally lost it. Joseph Campbell. I have a couple of his books on my stand, my big messy book stand.
I was about to throw that name out. I was like, I don't know if that's who you're looking for.
That's exactly who I was looking for. Thank you. Joseph Campbell was like a comparative religious studies guy. He taught at an all-girls college. I can't remember which one right off the bat, but he was really good at his job. And he wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, which completely changed my thinking on religion, on any one religion. So that's why I think for me, I'm very open to anybody's belief system. I'm very open to it. I don't think one is better than the other. There's ones that I prefer, but, you know, there's only one that I did.
I like to think of my Jesus in like a tuxedo shirt, T-shirt, so it means he's serious but likes to party.
That's right. That's right. And he's got a little bit of a
little mullet.
Party in the back, business up front.
Right. If the opportunity to quote Talladega Nights pops up, I have to. So
let me tell you the law. Jesus got a sense of humor. He'd have to. Look, he hung out with 13 fishermen or whatever. But evidently he brought him in. Lucas brought him in when he was like trying to put together the story for the Hero's Journey to make sure he was, I guess, hitting all the high marks. He brought him in for Empire, so he was kind of on loan from the college, for lack of a better term, to talk about stuff. And I thought that was really interesting. That's one of
that is actually really cool that he did that, and that might explain why the next movie up is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is. I like some better than others, but man, when it comes down to it, it's Empire all day long. But these movies are so good. And I was watching that last night, and it's like I've always liked this, and I haven't watched this one in at least a year or so. Yeah. It's been a while. But man, getting all that backstory and watching this, it hurts a little bit.
Yeah, it
And
does.
what
It
I
does.
mean by this is it doesn't help the movie in some ways. In some ways,
Hmm.
it helps the viewer, but I'm going to say the fight scenes in episode 1 through 3,
Hmm.
1, 2, and 3, and Solo and Rogue
Right.
One are so good, and it's so much more fluid. And then you get to episode 4, and it's like where the choreography go. Darth Vader is weak as fuck here. Come on now,
Right.
you know.
Well,
And that's just because they didn't have that in there. So you're
it,
used to seeing him fight like a badass. Now it's like ding, ding, ding.
well, the way that I take it, and this is how I justify what you're saying in my own
Right.
head, and is these are two masters. They've fought. They fought side by side. They've had their big duel, at least one big duel. They may have another big duel. So at this point, they're beyond all the force choke, force throwing stuff at each other because they're so evenly matched that at this point it's just who's better with the sword.
Yeah.
Screw the whole force thing.
But it would have been so
Let's
exciting.
kick ass. There is on YouTube someplace, and I've watched it before. It's somebody did an edit, a badass edit with Luke, or not Luke, but with Obi-Wan and Darth fighting in that scene.
Uh-huh.
It is
I've
phenomenal.
seen that,
If
yes.
anybody can find it, I don't remember
I
what
think
it's
Jim
called.
showed it to us once.
Maybe it might have
Yeah.
been Jim. But if anybody can find that scene, if you can digitally enhance it and put it into a cut of the movie and send me a copy, that'd be great. Because
Yeah.
I don't know how to do all that. But that scene fits perfectly. Whoever did it, whoever put it together, it looks they dropped Obi-Wan's face on whoever was doing the body double shit for Obi-Wan,
Nice.
and then you got Darth Vader. I mean, they're doing that kind of fight scene,
That's
the
awesome.
jumping and the moving.
But
It's really a cool
I guess
scene.
after seeing Darth just total badass
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Rogue One is like ah.
Yeah, but when I look at it, I think these are two masters that are just there's
Okay.
no tricks.
That's a fair point.
The tricks are done.
Yeah.
You save the tricks for the guys who are going to run in fear.
And Obi-Wan knew what he was doing. And
Right.
I used to think, what the fuck? Obi-Wan just gave up. Yeah, he did. He
Yeah.
did, but for a reason. He knew he
Mhm.
could attain a higher level and still be
Right.
a conscious entity who could help Luke and still be part of the Force. And they
And
brought that
nothing-
up in episode 2.
Yeah.
They show
Yeah.
Qui-Gon had found a way to do that.
Right.
And in the deleted scene, Obi-Wan is learning how to do this from Qui-Gon. So here it is. And I thought that was like, oh, I'm so glad I watched that because this makes so much sense.
And that's one of those scenes that they should have never cut out.
Yeah, I agree.
In episode two
Two.
or three? Two?
I think it was 2.
When they did that, they should have left that scene in there for Obi-Wan. So anybody in the future that haven't seen the movie yet, that would have all made sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that scene to me is just two guys who are the tricks don't work.
Right.
They're not going to work against these guys. They've fought. They know each other's moves. It's just down to who's a better swordsman. And honestly, I think Vader would have lost. I think at this point, no tricks, no troopers. But would Obi-Wan have gotten out of there alive?
No.
I don't think so either.
No.
But I
No,
think
it was done. It was a sacrifice. Obi-Wan was able to sacrifice himself willingly, and it's a cool moment, and it's
I remember seeing that as a kid. Do you remember what the just everything falling down? You're like, holy crap! And Vader poking it, like what just happened?
when we were just talking about Marsha Lucas, it was her idea to kill Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
that was not going to happen originally, but she's like, this is boring.
Yeah, there's nothing going on. You have to have some stakes where
they can't just run in and run out, and Darth Vader's like, oh well.
Yeah, you kill a main character, then from that point on, who else is going to die in this movie?
Yeah, he needed to go.
Yeah, he needed killing. Sorry, folks.
Story-wise,
he needed killing. Because honestly, getting off the Death Star in real life had you not been given the okay, like by Vader to get away, there's no way in hell they'd have just blown that shit up. They would have pushed that ship out, shot it in his face, and you'd never gotten on there. You'd never got on the Death Star. You'd never gotten away from the Death Star. There's no way.
Yeah.
No way. It would have been like getting off that planet in Rogue One. You weren't getting up. That was, as soon as they got there, it's like, yeah, this is a suicide mission.
That's it. We're done. let's make it count.
Yeah, let's make 10 men feel like 100. Let's go.
Yeah.
Mm. So let me go through.
Like
I got a few notes. Yeah, right. Woo-hoo. Drinks are on me, fellas. What? I got some notes. We'll run through them and we'll just stop looking at me like that. It was funny.
Okay.
The best opening scene ever, bar none. No movie comes close. That scroll, and then the ship flying overhead over the one eye, and then the other ship coming over, just blasting. The sound, I remember as this kid watching that being completely flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Like that scene to this day, I will turn up. I got the nice speaker system now. I turn that sucker up, and I just want to hear that boom of the engines flying over and the blasting. It's so cool.
And that's why they have done it 10 more times.
Yep. Every time it's in space. Yep.
Yep. Every single movie opening. It's great.
R2-D2 and C-3PO are in the life pod.
Yeah.
They get out, right? The guy's aiming the gunny. The one gunner's turning it around. He's going to blast the shit out of it. And the one guy says, no, leave it alone. There's no life forms in there. It's probably just a misfire. I think that guy was a rebel sympathizer. Because any Imperial
shot it
guy
regardless.
would have just in case. Just in case there's something on there that we have to blast the shit out of, blast it.
Very well could have been. And it would make perfect sense. The Death Star is absolutely massive. So there are probably 50 to 100,000 people working on it. Easily. That's a small number because this thing is the size of a moon. There might be 1 million people on this thing. So, yes, to think that there'd be somebody sympathetic to the Republic, of course, because the designer of the Death Star's weapon, Galen Erso, was a rebel sympathist. So.
Exactly. So there's got to be more in the Empire that are like, I did not sign on for this. What? Why is my uniform black now? Why do I look like a Nazi?
Why did you hire Hugo Boss for our uniforms?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they fit nice and they are stylish.
Look awesome.
And these
great
boots
on a winter's night. Yeah.
Yeah, my boots are always shiny, but I don't feel
They're
comfortable.
great for the high step in there.
Yeah, I just don't feel comfortable anymore.
Right.
I mean, I look good in black.
Look pretty damn good, but
yeah. And those capes are really fashionable here, but I just thought it hit me last night. Like, why would that guy never do?
That's a great point.
Shoot it. It was one of those things ever since I was a kid. It's like, why didn't he just shoot it?
Yeah.
I want to know what happened to Vader's aide-de-camp. It's the only guy that walks around and tells Vader his honest opinion, and Vader doesn't force choke him. Whenever Vader's like saying, bring me all the rebels aboard the ship, and the kid looks at him and goes, she'll never tell you anything. She'll die, and he's like, leave that to me. And he says, you send a message. Everybody's been dead. And the guy's like questioning him. He's walking down the hallway like, I don't know about this. And Vader's like, don't worry about it, kid. I got this covered.
Yeah.
My backstory in my own head, I've never read anything about this guy. I think the guy had some force ability and Vader was helping him. I think that was going to be his secret. This is how I've always thought about this guy. But I want to know.
Wow, I never thought about that guy till now. Now I will.
I want to know what that guy's backstory is. Because he's the only guy that could talk to Vader and Vader didn't strangle him.
That means he knows him
well. He wasn't a yes man.
No, that means he knows him. They're
he
probably
was
close.
He was comfortable enough to give and respectful enough to give his opinion, but no one to stop. Like, that's dangerous. Vader, you see, this is dangerous. Whereas if one of the colonels or even one of the commanders of the ship would have said, "That's dangerous. We can't do that," he would have been
like that idiot. It was just going off on Lord Darth Vader. I'm like, oh fuck, oh no. And everybody around the table is like, oh no, fuck, here it comes, and the guy's like,
You're half expecting all the other guys at the table to grab their head, like, or go, shh, shh, finger to the lips. Shh, shh,
Yeah,
shh,
because
be
you know
quiet.
what's coming. It's
Just
just going to
stop. It's like he's the one guy who hasn't been force choked at the table yet.
be a...
He's
He gonna,
new. He's
he
the
gonna
new
learn
guy,
today.
Lord Vader. He
And it's
just
like,
got transferred from Dantooine.
okay, now this just brought up a thought. Okay, there's a lot of people at this time frame very dismissive and downright somewhat disrespectful of the Jedi Order.
Right.
Like it's only been
20
19 years since Order 66 or whatever.
They say it takes one generation to forget your entire history.
I think that is very believable, and it probably happens a hell of a lot faster. Just look at the world today.
And I think that's why he did it that way. Like, by this time, the Emperor or the Empire has done so much to wipe out any history of the Jedi that if anybody knows them, if anybody knows about them, you're not going to bring it up.
Good point. Good point.
And if you do bring it up, you're going to bring it up in a dismissive and a fuck you sort of way, like that's a stupid religion.
Yeah,
looking around and hoping there's not a Jedi around to kill you for saying it. You know what I mean? But like with him and Tarkin, when Tarkin tells Vader, "Hey, you're the last of your religion. I'm sure everybody else is dead." Tarkin and Vader have got a deal going. Like Vader only tolerates Tarkin. They both want the same thing. I've read in some books where they're basically, without saying it to each other, we're going to overthrow the Emperor and take over the Empire. That was their deal. That was the nose to the finger, I know what you know, and we both want the same thing. And Vader always just assumed, after I do it, I'll kill that fucking guy. He's going to be real easy to kill.
Now, since you mentioned Tarkin, you are absolutely correct. Peter Cushing is not that tall.
Right?
It's the first thing I noticed. It's like, he was a lot taller in Rogue One.
Right, exactly.
Wow. They could have just made him the same size because it was very noticeable.
That's the thing, and I think you and I talked about it when we did Rogue One, is that was the one thing that bothered me more so about Tarkin than anything else, was he was so much taller than everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did it. I don't know if the actor was just a tall guy.
Yeah.
But, he could do the voice. He sounded enough like Tarkin to where he pulled it all off. Little funny, I had heard this many, many years ago and I forgot about it. And Kat was looking something up or saw something that Christopher Reeves, the man who played Superman in the first, in the good Superman movies, the first two. After that, they sucked. I'm sorry.
Come on, you know what? Richard Pryor
actually trained with David Prowse, the guy who played Darth Vader. Because he was a bodybuilder. Prowse was a bodybuilder.
I didn't know
he was
that.
like a world-class bodybuilder. And that's why they put him in the costume, because he was so big.
You know what's neat, though? Well, let's talk about Vader a moment.
Okay.
James Earl Jones, the voice of Vader. Such an iconic voice. I love this man's voice. He can read the phone book, It's But you could tell this is the beginning of his Vader.
Right.
It's not as powerful and as strong as it is in the last 4 movies or whatever. So,
right.
And that probably come with age. It's probably gotten deeper and stuff like that. But it was just something I noticed last night because Janine had asked me. She said,
"Yeah,
Vader sounds off," and it's like, well, that is James Earl Jones.
It was the very first movie with Vader's voice. Yeah, it's great. Not funny, because I really suffered for this, and occasionally I think you probably pick up on it. I know the wife does. He suffered a very bad stuttering problem as a child. As a young, teenager, he had to work really hard to
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones.
I did not know that.
And when I was younger, I had a really, really bad stuttering problem. So when I get really excited or really pissed off, I start to stutter a little bit. I have to catch myself and go, okay, stop.
I've never noticed.
Think about what I'm going to say. Well, every once in a while I'll stutter, and my wife's like, ha ha, and just says something, and I just look at her like, really? It's like, she's like, I forgot.
I only do
it's
that when
okay. I don't really mind. I'm just giving you this look because I know I can.
it just happens to me when I get kind of fucked up. I start to stutter, but
that's only because you're drunk.
yeah.
But yeah, he had a really bad stuttering problem. But I thought it was really cool because she brought that up the other day, and I know that I had read it, but I had forgot. It's one of those things that I just forgot about. But Prowse, was the guy who got him into shape to be Superman.
Well, I did not know.
If you notice, if you look later on in the first 3 movies that he's in, because Prowse is in the costume, if you look at his arms, that's not molding in those costumes. They weren't molding costumes back then.
He was really that big.
So when Vader flexes his arm and you see the ripple in the arm, that's all Prowse. That's what he really was. He was just a beast of a guy. He was also in the BBC series. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, very cool.
He's just in a small part, but when you see him standing next to a regular-sized human being, you're like, holy crap, that guy was big.
Have you read anything about or interviews with him on... I'm just curious on how he felt about not being able to voice Vader. I mean, nobody's going to deny that James Earl Jones is perfect. It had to be done, but I just always wondered how David Prowse felt.
Initially,
or if he knew that going in.
No, he did not know going in. Initially, if I remember reading and hearing correctly, he was supposed to voice Vader. Mm-hmm. He was they just had the mask on him, and he was reading the lines. But the thing is, he had this. I think it was a Scottish accent, a slight Scottish accent, a thick Scottish accent, or Wales accent. I'm not sure which. So
if it was Welsh,
if you ever hear him actually speaking in the Vader, and he's talking about the one scene that I remember seeing is he's telling them to take Leia away. He's like, just take her away, and he's got this voice and he's this big monster of a guy, but his voice did not actually fit him, especially at the time. So you can't have that as Vader. And evidently I'm going to take a wild guess and say Marsha Lucas stepped in and went, no, you can't do that.
No, because your impersonation is, I thought of Biggest Dickus.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of what the guy sounded like. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick because,
Sorry. Got to work the Monty Python in.
Everything he did, though, he voiced it and everybody was there. And I think just somewhere along the line, somebody was like, George, we can't use any of this. There's no way anybody would be afraid of this guy. I don't give a crap.
Oh, they start laughing.
He's got, Yeah. It's like, I don't care if he is the Emperor's right-hand man. Utani! I just love the Jawas when they...
Oh, I love the Jawas.
Sound. They get R2-D2, that jump shot whenever R2 is going up the hill and he's like whistling, la, 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 minding his own business. Then the Jawa jumps up. What Danny?
I can't look at the Jawas the same anymore ever since The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett because the mechanic on Tatooine that has helped Mando and Boba Fett, she actually mentions, I dated a Jawa once. Hairy little buggers or whatever. And I'm like, what? Because she speaks Jawa. She starts hollering at him he's like, you speak Jawa? Yeah, I dated one once.
Well, she's short, so.
Yeah. Great character, by the way.
Yeah, that's a great character. I loved Luke whining about Tashi Station.
That's what a teenager would do.
Yeah, exactly. You're a teenager that wants to go to the big city. In this case, the big city is off that freaking hellhole of a planet.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
And if you do, you can find scenes where he does go to Tashi Station that were cut. Mm-hmm. So it's worth a watch to go and take a look at those. It's kind of neat.
Watching like we touched on a little bit earlier, the Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen characters that they got for the first 2 episodes, or the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Yes.
Those guys, they were perfect. She looked enough like like you could look at her and go, yeah, that's a young Aunt Beru.
Yeah,
but
I can see why they were.
The guy looked just like an Owen. You're like, oh yeah, that's Uncle Owen. That guy is Uncle Owen, and I think he's supposed to show up in Obi-Wan. I think they're supposed to have some scenes together in Obi-Wan. I hope they brought the girl back. If you brought back the actor that plays Owen, I think you have to bring back that actress. Um, ba, 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 ba. The first time I'd ever saw a lightsaber was the first time I fell in love and know that if they ever make lightsabers, I'm going to buy one. I don't care what it takes. I want a lightsaber. Keep your blaster. I want a lightsaber and the Millennium Falcon. That's it. That's all I want.
That's not much. What,
That's not much. I don't think it's it's 0.5 past light speed. Come on. That's pretty good. Can't imagine what the fuel cost is on that thing, but yeah.
See, that's what's cool about watching. I'm going to go back to this because I'm really enjoying doing the Star Wars marathon. When Han makes a reference of the Kessel Run, it's like, I just saw that.
Yeah, he's right. It was 12 parsecs.
Yeah, I just watched that. It's like to see that stuff, and you see the callbacks, and it's like this was well done. People knew what they were doing, writing these prequel movies to try and get it to connect. So they had to really study. And watching it last night, I could see how much I cannot remember the actor's name who played Han Solo in the movie Solo, but he really studied Harrison Ford because he really brought the essence of Han Solo.
Like I said, there's a couple of times that kid makes a move or he turns, and you see Harrison Ford. Yeah, absolutely. And I like what was I going to say? In he talks about the Kessel Run, and he's walking on Solo. I don't think I talked about this when we did the Solo review. He's walking past somebody. He says, "Yeah, I did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs." And Chewie's roar, roar, roar. He's like, "Not when you round down, pal. Not when you round down."
See, that was
brilliant. Like,
it was one of those moments. It's like, wow,
That was a good line.
It was.
But I don't know anybody who doesn't want a lightsaber. I'm gonna.
We all want one. I do have a friend who makes those.
My lightsaber.
Custom made.
I'm showing my lightsaber right now. If anybody's
very
interested.
nice.
Yes, love my lightsaber.
So
I want a real one.
There's a market if we could ever get a real one.
Oh, I'm telling you, they would sell. People would stop buying guns. They would just go buy damn lightsabers. Why do you want a lightsaber? I would just want a lightsaber. What do you mean?
Want a blaster. I'll take a blaster.
Yeah, a blaster would be awesome.
Yeah.
Make sure you shoot first.
Let's talk about blasters and shooting first.
Yeah. Well, wait. Let me get there.
Okay.
The one thing that really bothers me about this movie is Princess Leia's disappearing British accent and reappearing British accent.
Did not catch it.
And disappearing. Shit. I never caught it until the wife brought it up to me, and now I can't not hear it and then not hear it. Ever since she brought it up like 10 years ago, I was like,
oh my God.
And then I heard it, and then I didn't hear it. Then I heard it, and then I'm like, oh my God, nobody caught that continuity.
How did they not?
And in Empire, they just got rid of it. They're like, no, just don't try and speak with a British accent, Carrie. Yeah. Just stand there and look cute, and don't worry. In the third one, you're going to be in a slave girl outfit. We're all looking forward to that one, Carrie. That cantina scene. I don't know how you felt whenever you were a kid and you've seen that the first time.
Oh, it was so cool.
Holy cow.
All the different alien life forms. It was just so neat to see.
That's when you know they're on another planet. Because they're not demons. They're not evil. They're just guys and women and just things in a bar. And you're like, oh my God, that is brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I love that.
I loved seeing the two assholes from Rogue One.
Yeah. I said something to Kat the other day, like, Dr. Evazan and Walrus Man need to just shut the hell up. Did they not know how lucky they just were? Did they not get the news? Were they not watching CNN whenever they were flying into the Tatooine?
They are very lucky.
They were. They were really lucky.
Until they met a Jedi.
One too many times. The Jizz Band. George Lucas named, I forgot the name of the band, but it's a jizz band. I just want to know how many
leave it at that.
I just want to know how many people looked at him and went, George, Oh, never mind, George. Just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
The dice in the cockpit are not the dice that are in these other movies. These dice are little silver dice with black dots on it.
Huh.
Those are the dice that I always wanted. And then they changed the design, and I'm like, I don't want those dice. I want the original dice.
That's why
Just
they
me.
did that. That's weird.
Don't know. We'll talk about the shooting, but I have two things that I want to talk about real quick. When they were on the Death Star, what did they do with the two stormtroopers and the two techs that they blasted and knocked out on the Millennium Falcon? Were they still on the ship when they got back to Yavin base? I don't. Did they jettison them out into space?
That's a good thing. I never even noticed. You know what? Apparently, I'm not the only one who didn't notice. The entire editing crew didn't notice, and everybody else.
They didn't even roll him down the gangplank.
No.
Taking off.
We're just going to assume they took care of him.
Yeah. I'm guessing. Yeah, but Han Solo at that point probably would have put a blaster bolt in their heads.
Probably.
Yeah, and I gotta say once again to reiterate, the real hero of the Star Wars saga is his ex-wife Marcia Lucas. She did the Empire and Jedi stuff. Do you agree or disagree, or you think I'm giving her too much credit, not enough credit?
I will never say anybody. When it comes to editing, that's my passion. I love to edit. If I'm doing something behind the scenes on a movie, editing is where I love to be because the editor can take a horror movie and turn it into comedy and make your comedy a heartfelt drama.
Right.
Just by changing camera angles and using different clips and changing the music, changing the cues, the light, the coloring, all of that, the editor has immense power. So I think, yes, she deserves all the credit she gets. And it's funny that it's always the wife that goes and saves the husband from doing something stupid.
Yeah. So why would you divorce her?
Look at Stephen King.
Billions.
Stephen King's wife, the story goes, she pulled the novel Carrie out of the trash can.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
And forced Stephen King to publish it.
Wow.
So, I'm sure he's glad he did.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
But it's like
about the 5,000th printing.
Yeah. Millionth.
Yeah, that's insane. That's
Isn't
insane.
It? But it goes to show, I think, and I don't fault George on this because you and I both and other people, artists as creatives, we are our worst critics, and stuff that we think is horrible. Other people are like, man, it's just amazing. But nothing is ever good enough. It's always,
And that's the hard thing. You have to get to a point in your life, and I'm getting that now finally, thank God, as I'm getting older, much older, is getting to a point where it's never going to be as perfect as I want it, but I can make it good, and I can make it good enough.
Yeah, one of the things Yeah, one of the things for me is always learning when to quit, when to stop messing with it. I do that in a script, or if I'm editing something or whatever. It's just, you know what? You're done. Walk away. It's over. No matter how much you caress this, it's not getting any better.
Her abilities were just astounding. And to talk about editing, the sand person that's going after Luke with the pike, and then he stands up and he goes and he does the thing above his head and he shakes it.
Yeah,
that's a rollback. That's a toggle back and forth. For the
I did not know that.
The stuntman only did it once. He went whoa, and then
they did that.
And I guess she was looking at it and was like, "Well, that's too short." Boop, 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 boop. And they just added the with the sound. And I was like, oh my God. All the years I'd never noticed. I never freaking noticed.
It's somebody having the eyes and just the thought to see that little thing and doing here's the thing that amazes me. It's the little things that make something come alive. If you look at the cantina itself, you're like at first glance, my God, there's a lot of different aliens. But you know what?
Hmm.
They took you around. You saw everything. You looked. There was the
Yep.
glasses, all the props, everything designed and picked out for a certain way. The more
Yep.
stuff it's added in, the more real this shit becomes, and the more believable. And it's just
And they
amazing.
didn't stay. And his one rule was never stay on anything too long. You're in the
Yeah.
bar. You see the bar. This is what happens in the bar. You're out.
Yeah.
We're gone now. Brilliant.
Yep.
Make it look lived in. Brilliant.
Well, it was shot. The camera angles in there, they were shot very close, very
Oh yeah.
tight, and that helps give you the feeling of you're in a cramped bar. I mean, it's like just
Yep.
everything was just boom
In
right
a
in your
small,
face.
cramped, typical bar.
Yeah.
A spacefaring bar. Real quick, the guy who played Porkins,
Uh-huh.
name 2 movies that you've seen him in.
I can't, but all I could think of last night was where have I seen him?
Batman, the first Batman, with Michael Keaton. He was
Oh
the
yeah.
detective that gets shot. He's the guy with the
Oh
cigar who's talking like this. Where you been sleeping?
yeah.
Who you been spending your nights with, or whatever. He's the guy who gets shot. And then the government agent. You don't know what government agency he's with. In Indiana Jones, the first Indiana Jones movie,
Son of
when
a
they go
bitch.
to get Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
and they're saying, when he's asking the guy, well, where is all the, where's this stuff at? And he says, it's in a safe spot. And he goes, what safe spot? He says, a very safe spot. He's one of the
I'll be
agents
damned.
giving him shit. So Lucas used him a couple of times because he liked him.
Yeah, that's
So I thought
really
that was
cool.
pretty cool. Now my stupid notes are out of the way. We have a few more minutes. Let's talk about who shot first.
Han shot first.
Why?
If you don't watch the special edition.
Exactly.
Now, here's the thing. We just
that
we
scene.
just watched 2 movies ago. We watched Solo.
Right.
You learned that Han learned a very important lesson in Solo, and that is to shoot first.
And that's why Kasdan wrote that scene that way.
Yeah.
And I guess he had a chat, and it sounded like he had a chat with Lucas, and Lucas didn't want him to like do this, and he's like, no, Kasdan basically helped create the Empire, the Empire and the universe that we know and love by helping Lucas a couple of times. So when he went back to write Solo, he was like, this is the character I want to write. This is who I want to write. And everybody's like, great, great, great. Come on in. And when he did that, I was like, that's him telling George Lucas, you were wrong to change this, without slapping his friend and former boss in the face.
Yep.
That was him saying, this is who the character was. This is who he should have stayed. And I agree with that. It was a horrible...
I don't understand the choice. Why he did that. It was just like, what the hell? Because that's not how the movie was.
George Lucas touched too many things, and I think, like you and I were just talking about, you got to know when to stay to walk away. Well, he got all the toys. He had all the toys in the world, and he had all the money in the world that he could go in and just keep touching and playing and touching and playing. Yeah. And he was pissing off the fans, and he didn't care. Because this is my movie. No, George, it's no longer your movie.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it's just not. As much as I want to say, as a creator, if I put something out there, it's only partially mine.
Yeah.
Do you understand? You know what I mean?
Oh, I understand completely.
At some point, I've put this thing out there, and now it's everyone's. Well, not saying that everyone has a right to make money off of what I'm doing.
No, they don't.
They're not allowed to copy it and steal it. But it is theirs to look at and go, okay, this is how I see this particular thing.
It involves everybody. One of the related to that, one of the stories I always chuckle at, and I find it very interesting, is Trent Reznor, when he did the song "Hurt." Johnny Cash actually covered it on his last album before Johnny passed. Yeah. And it's a beautifully haunting song. Trent said that when he heard this on the radio, he said, fuck. I'm paraphrasing here, people. He says, fuck. It's no longer my song. I just lost my song. Yeah. Because he recognized that Johnny took it and just
made it his own. And Johnny Cash did such a good job on that song.
I know. It's beautiful. It's haunting. But anyway, along in there, once you make something and put it out there, yes, it's yours. But Star Wars has touched so many people. Yeah, it's like you just don't mess with it.
And his excuse was he didn't want Solo to be considered a bad guy ever. But
He's not a bad guy.
No, but the problem with saying that is that he was never a bad guy. He was an anti-hero, but you had to have some kind of circle. He had to have a motivation. He had to have some change in his personality. Now, would he keep shooting people first? Probably.
Absolutely.
But he's going to make sure they deserve it.
Yeah. Well, I always look at Han Solo in Dungeons and Dragons terms. He's a chaotic good character.
Yeah.
I'd give he is good, but he don't care about the rules. The rules don't matter. I'm going to do what's right.
And I'm going to help somebody.
It may be for me, but it may be for everybody else.
I might be able to help this person and still live, but if I'm going to die, I'm not going to help that person. So he's a good character. I don't think
he absolutely is.
A lot of the editing that Lucas kept going back, like when he goes and digitized the fight scene in the Death Star, he put in way too many X-wings. I mean, he had like hundreds of X-wings. They only had like 30 or 40. They were a small band. It's not like they could go out in the open. I mean, Yavin, I'm sure, was only one of a couple of bases.
Right.
I would think if you're a guerrilla warfare, you're not putting everybody in one base.
No, you're not.
They might show up for 5 minutes, and as long as they don't all get killed, they all say one thing and then take off. You know what I mean? But you're not going to have everyone, all your ships, all your ammo, everybody in one spot. If you do, you're doomed to failure because, the Empire's not going to let you get away. But that shot, that's always bothered me. I remember sitting in the theater when they were releasing the movies. They were like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. It's yay!" And then that scene, and I was like, "What the hell?" And you could just see all the adults do one of these. At first, everybody's like, "Yeah, this is cool," and then all of a sudden, everybody just did like a sit up in their seat straight and look around like, "What the hell just happened?" No, and you could hear the groan. No. Oh, and it was poorly done. I mean, the head being off to the side, it didn't work. Nothing.
The way where it hit, it just it was like
nothing.
This is wrong. It was pointless. It was, and so God bless Kasdan for going and writing Solo the Solo movie the way he did to give us a reason why Han shot first. And
exactly.
It was great.
I would recommend to Disney, if you're going to release Star Wars ever again, just release the original.
Please do.
Version that was released in the theaters back in the 70s. Just do it. Just leave the models alone. Clean it up. Make it look pretty. Yeah. It's been done.
Give us a 4K release, and because I really don't want to break out my Laserdisc player.
No. Well, that's just it. Like the one that I have is the cut that I have was burned from a Laserdisc. That's how I got it. Letterbox, very beautiful. It's nice and cleaned up, but it's the original stuff from the movie. It was just cleaned up. That's all they did. And I'm like, this is perfect. Why didn't they just release this? Disney needs to just release that. I would like to see all that other stuff put back into the movie.
Would too.
All the stuff
I would too. We may get it eventually. Whatever. I'm not going to hold my breath.
But
so do you have any more notes on episode 4?
I'm very happy with this movie. This is
great
fucking
movie.
This movie.
Yes.
Love this movie. The only holy trilogy that matters as far as movies go.
That's right. The Holy Trilogy. The Holy Trinity.
Movies. Just movies is what I'm talking about. I got nothing bad to say about this movie. I loved it.
I don't either, other than the special edition. It's still worth watching.
Yeah.
Take it with what it is. Because that's all you're going to find unless you have, you can find the original. That's all I'm going to say, unless you have a Laserdisc. So it's really not available to stream out there. So what you're going to get I've been watching these on Disney, just because it's like they're right there in a row. I just have to play. I do own them. I've got them on DVD somewhere, but that would require me to get up and put something in a machine to watch it. So I can just stay in my recliner and hit play and watch. But they've been really good on there. They're all cleaned up in 4K HDR. They look beautiful. Watching episode 4 last night, it was absolutely gorgeous for such an old movie. It looked great. So it sounds incredible. So I do like that everything's been cleaned up for that. But so next week, Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back. Thank you, folks.
Cannot wait. So until next time, hit subscribe, hit like, share us. Thank you to all our new listeners who have joined in when you saw two old guys bitching about Star Wars.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very nice.
We do appreciate everybody who's joining us. Drop us a line. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Give us some feedback. We love hearing from our listeners, and tell us where you're listening. Are you on a podcast, or are you watching the video on YouTube? We have different audiences on both places. Different shows get different traction depending on where they're at. So just curious where you're listening and what you like. So until next time.
One last thing.
Yes.
May the Force be with you.